You know who Ben Burtt is?
No, sorry.
Ben Burtt is the creator of all the sound design and sound editing for Star Wars.
Oh my God.
So he's the one that
I've heard of Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's a movie.
You know that
right?
movie?
There's space, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
There's
I think I've heard of that.
some furry creatures, some droids,
Yeah.
guy with a lightsaber.
A lot of beeping and bopping and booping.
Yeah, so he created like all those noises and all those sounds and stuff.
What a legend. Welcome to the Marketing Team of One podcast, where we have conversations about the issues one-person marketing teams face when trying to meet their goals with limited time and budgets. Now here's your hosts, Eric and Mike. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Today on the pod, we have an amazing guest with us today, Mr. Steve Joves.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming along here. You went to school at...
I went to school at San Diego State back in the 90s and graduated with a degree in graphic design and advertising.
Okay.
And then took a little bit of a break. And then after that, I went to Academy of Art in San Francisco. Yeah. And I got a degree in 3D design and modeling, which I do not use any of that right now. But they did have a lot of elective courses, which kind of put me on the path of doing motion graphics. But also web design was it because that was like the blooming field back in the late 90s. So I took a lot of web design and then I took a lot of video classes, ended up using most of those for my career and really didn't do much with 3D modeling. Thank God, because that's really hard.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it's really difficult. I always think they're like modern day Renaissance artists, you know, in certain ways.
Interesting. All of that culminated with you then into your role now as the creative manager for the Safe Credit Union here in Sacramento, one of the largest credit unions here in Sacramento, correct?
Yeah, one of the largest ones in Sacramento. I believe we're the second biggest one in Sacramento, next to Golden One. Yep. So, and been a Sacramento staple for over 80 years. But the credit union has evolved significantly, even so much, like even over the past, you know, I've been with Safe for 8 years, almost 8 years. And even in that time, I feel like the credit union has evolved from a company perspective. The industries that I was a part of when I was in San Francisco were either gaming or entertainment. Okay. So I did some stuff for Quokka Sports, so NBCOlympics.com. I worked at MTV Networks. So
fun.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. You know, we were underneath Comedy Central and Nickelodeon umbrellas. Nice. And so we were building websites for them and stuff like that.
Wow.
Super fun. Like you just got to see some zany stuff, produce some really kind of fun content.
Yeah.
But it's weird though, because like in those industries and then after that I went into gaming. I was a creative director for a gaming company where we took content and then we localized it to different regions of the world. Okay. So, and then that business model was, it's called MMORPG. I don't know if you know that. It's mega player online
people
player.
Shooting each other, I think.
Yeah, it's like a lot of stuff where you get the game for free and then you can buy like a wizard hat in there for, in-game currency. Okay. Anyway, so all that fun industries, but you don't really like engage with the user, the end user, right? You're producing content, but it's kind of like you throw it out there and you're like, wow, look, 20 million people saw this. Awesome. And then you just kind of move on to the next thing and just keep on doing that. So that was San Francisco. And then when I moved here, I got laid off from my gaming job. And so I needed to find a job here. And so I ended up working for a company that did what they do. They did insurance for private student loans for credit unions. That introduced me to the world of credit unions. And then when that company dissolved or was no longer, and I didn't have a job, I was in Sacramento, and that's when I heard about, you know, I was like looking and I saw Safe needed a UI UX designer. Okay. And, you know, my first thought was like, you know, Safe, you know, it's like, you just don't really think of a credit union as being anything other than just like banking. You know, it's just like, this is just very rigid, you know,
the most corporate of all corporate.
Yeah. It's like just corporate finance, whatever, not corporate finance, but just blah, not sexy. Right. Yeah. And, that's sort of like the persona I had of Safe. I went in there and I would say like, you know, the marketing department instantly that I was a part of definitely not like that at all. You know, it's like super cool, really, really nice people, just really diverse as well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is like interesting. I just never thought the culture was like this. And I hate saying all rah-rah about it, but it does feel like that though. You know, like you do feel like the sense of like you are really, you know, from a lot of the ways that we do stuff for marketing, we really are genuinely trying to help out the community and the members.
So. Well, and I think that's interesting. Credit unions by nature have that as their mission. They're about that. They're about their members. It's supporting them and providing, you know, and if to hear that the culture behind that is also like that just makes sense. And it's refreshing to hear that it's not manufactured in a way. It does sound very authentic, which is important,
yeah. And it's one of those things like you really wish you could market the culture of SAFE to and show that out to the community, going like, hey, look, you know, we are like a diverse group. We very much like respect, you know, political beliefs. We respect religious beliefs. We respect a lot of the things that are a part of the Sacramento community. And we just, we really value you as a person, and we really value you as a member, and you know, all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Steve, you brought up an interesting point. You said your role is creative manager at Safe Credit Union. And I always thought of it as like an organization like Safe usually has a creative director.
Right.
So there's differences in those roles. Maybe you can explain the differences a little bit, and then explain why your organization has chosen to have a creative manager and then utilize creative directors.
My role is to organize the way that the creative team gets assets, the way that we distribute the work, and you know, for our normal marketing, our normal marketing assets that we deliver out to the world, right? So email, social, banners of all kinds of different, and you know, how we do the website as well too.
Print material
as well. So stuff that's brochures, everything that's on the branch. So our creative team manages that whole process of getting all those ideas, getting all those promotions, making sure that we are adhering to the media or to the deliverables, whatever the specs that need to be delivered. And our role is to just make sure that those campaigns get launched properly and the way that should be, you know, that the way we've all decided as a company to do it.
Yeah.
And because, you know, there's a lot of stakeholders, right? There's product owners, there's strategists, there's compliance has to look at it. You know, there's a big team of that needs to do in order to get a product out. So, or get a promo out.
So when you're making things,
yes,
whatever they may be for marketing and sales tools, as it were, you've got a lot of other people involved in giving approvals and decision makers around, maybe at the beginning where it's strategy and we want to go this direction and it needs to kind of feel this way. And then you've also got compliance and a lot of things on the back end. Once everything's done, you've also got people that need to look and review and approve all that stuff that way.
Yeah, for sure. So it's there's definitely a balance of how everything gets produced, right? So we have our copy, and then the copy comes in, then we have design, and then it has to get approved and make sure that it's compliant, and making sure that we are not breaking any laws, and making sure that we aren't talking about things we're not leading on, you know, basic marketing. And especially for the financial industry, there's a lot of triggers that could happen, and you don't want to lead on. You don't want to lead on anybody to think that they're getting something when they might not be. You know? So that's
highly regulated
for sure, as it should be, because you know, the banking industry has had problems with that in the past.
So. Well, trust is a huge issue.
Trust is a huge issue. So so anyway, we just want to make sure that our members and, you know, acquisitions or members, we feel good and they hear the messaging complete. And that's why there's like a run of disclosures and whatnot. My role as a creative manager is to kind of make sure all that is humming along and getting produced and going out the door.
How many people are on the team that you're managing then?
There is 2 designers and 1 copy person as well too. And then so our team is that's the creative team. And then we have a team of strategists as well too.
Team of strategists.
Yes.
I was thinking, when you told me this before, I was so jealous.
It's part of marketing that I feel like a lot of people don't think about. I think when people think about marketing, they always think about the visual components of it. But there is a lot of analytics behind the method of madness of what we're producing and why we're producing it, right? Yeah. So SAFE as leadership decides that we want to do a promotion of some kind, or they want to do whatever it is that we were trying to get out to the public, that this is what we're promoting. So we drive a campaign. From that campaign, the strategists kind of like look it over and just they strategize to how they're going to, the target audience, where we're going to go.
They give you basically the roadmap in a sense based on analytics and data of where.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's from higher levels of leadership that decide like, we have this one product and we are going to do X, Y, and Z with this amount of money, and it's going to go to a certain segment of audience.
Gotcha.
And then from that, they talk to our marketing team, and our strategists or VPs will look at it and say, we strategize like, okay, well, we're going to have an email campaign with that. We're going to talk about, we're going to make a landing page that, the email is going to go to a landing page, or we're going to set up a journey in Salesforce, or whatever it is that we're going to do.
Okay.
But it's just trying to make sure that the art that we're producing, the marketing assets, kind of humming along, just making sure it goes.
So when you're helping, you're kind of trafficking and approving and art directing a little bit,
right.
But then you said kind of the more tactical things that you're really involved in are run and gun, shoot video. And
yeah, I mean, this year was a little bit different because we did a whole redesign of our website.
Yes.
And so that was and that was with our rebrand, that refresh that we just did as well too. So that was a little bit more like, I was knee deep in web design mode, and just trying to figure out like colors and trying to figure out design, trying to figure out layout, doing some research with what's out there in the industry, all that kind of stuff. And just trying to make sure that we were really just trying to hold true to our brand identity and what we look like, and being consistent across the board with that.
So let's talk a little bit about creative direction then, because that was something that you had mentioned you don't really have creative direction in-house in a sense, correct?
Yeah, not in-house. We went to an outside agency for that, and they helped us out with our last two campaigns. So we had one, we called it the U campaign. It was basically big old YOU.
You saw it everywhere, the
saw
billboards.
It everywhere, billboards and stuff like that.
Blue and the simple,
So that was the U campaign. So that was from like the last 5 years, 6 years. It was like 2019-ish, I think.
Yeah.
And then we just recently went over and changed our positioning to it's called For What's Next.
Okay.
So, and then just the way that we produce imagery and the way that that we are creating assets now is more based off of illustration as opposed to like stock photography. The way that we've sort of positioned ourselves as well too as in this credit union sphere of Sacramento.
Yeah.
We wanted to make ourselves almost like just look different, just to kind of stand out,
some sort of differentiating factor.
Yeah, sort of zag a little bit, right? Nice. So, we're trying to, like we've said, we are the second biggest credit union, in Sacramento. There's one that's bigger, right? And so we're trying to make sure that we are differentiating ourselves, in that industry, in that field.
So you rely on kind of the look and feel main creative direction from an outside source, and then once maybe they step out a little bit and you take over control of that and then kind of direct it down that same street, let's just say, for an analogy.
Pretty much. That's kind of how the especially this last campaign has gone, is they kind of give this the overall brand feeling of it, what is it that we are trying to say as SAFE credit union. And then from there, from from a little bit from an art direction standpoint, or a lot from an art direction standpoint when it comes to the illustrations that were produced. We had a local artist produce our illustrations as well.
Love that.
And not you. AI. So
keeping those local illustrators busy. Right. I mean,
we still do have to rely on stock illustrations for certain things, but setting the tone for that type of illustration in this style, we definitely went for a local illustrator.
So you're driving the look and feel. You're doing a lot of the art direction. You're in my translation inside my head, you're extending the look and feel of the brand.
Correct. Yeah. So what we will do is, there was a concept of safe for what's next, and then from there, we had probably about 5 or 6 approved concepts that we were going to use of different types of illustrations in kind of like surreal settings, that the characters in the illustrations were the way that they were presented. And so we would take those illustrations and then make them into campaigns or make them into a product campaign of like, okay, we're going to take these 2 people that are looking through a door and we need to figure out how that's going to promote checking or something,
Yeah,
so,
like write a headline.
Yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't the intention when we were making the initial concept, but then once we got the illustrations, we were like trying to figure out, okay, how do we marry the concept with product, with campaign, and trying to make this all feel like it was intentional.
Interesting challenge. Now, what's the thinking behind this? It's kind of different that you would outsource that kind of brand or campaign, because these campaigns last for years.
Right.
So you invest in that initially up front with this outside source. What's the theory behind going outside for something like that? Because that seems like a pretty important decision to kind of, come up with that initial look. But what's the thinking there?
I think it's mainly because it's great to get an outside perspective of your company or your industry or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And kind of look at it from a different perspective other than internally.
Nice.
We know SAFE, we know our product, we know our members, and we know what we feel is the right direction to go.
Sure.
But there's sometimes I feel like with messaging or a different way that you want to look at the surrounding environment, what's going on in your community, what is the landscape of the financial community that's happening in Sacramento?
Yeah, good.
And I feel like, as a company, as SAFE as a credit union, you might miss some of that. You really do think about it like we help out our members, we help out our community. But sometimes I feel like an outside source might look at it a little bit differently. And so, when we reached out to, the different agencies and creative directors that would help us out with that, they worked with our SVP and really just, trying to narrow it down. What is it that we need to do in order to make this stand out different than what every other credit union is doing right now?
And sometimes it's that dynamic of when you're in the jar, you can't see the label. You can't,
for sure.
You can't read the label. So it's nice to kind of hire that outside perspective, bring that in, and then really you guys run with the campaign.
We definitely work with him a lot, and just saying that, hey, could you, he'll come to us with some concepts of sketches of the next round of illustrations. What do you guys think of this and this? And then, we'll he comes into us with blue lines or, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll make comments like, can you, whatever, can you make this person bigger, smaller, et cetera, et cetera. And, it's definitely not like, I think the initial concept of establishing, the anthem of whatever it is that we're doing is, 2 people in a room really just trying to hammer that out, which I think is actually pretty good because it goes with my whole brainstorming thing. Like, I feel like you just kind of need that concentration of higher level thinking, leadership wise, that we're going to go and tackle this thing.
Well, I like the idea of this because you're basically layering on interpretations, which makes for a deeper message, I think, because you're all pulling on the same rope in a sense. You're all going the same direction, but there's some sophistication to having those layers of interpretation. One being the creative director working with the senior vice president about that, and then there's your team's interpretation of all that. So I think that provides a really fresh insight.
Yeah, it was a really good process over the last year. That was definitely for the rebrand itself. My role was to redesign the site and just try to align our branches, our site, our whole creative identity together. And so we kind of worked in parallel, I guess. So it was, they were doing the brand and I was trying to figure out the website portion of it as well. And then we all decided, somewhere around February, March, we decided like, we're going to just launch this all at the same time and just, come out with one big bang kind of thing, so.
Let's talk a little bit about the website, because I know you said you had worked very hard on that, but it was interesting when we were doing kind of our pre-call on this. There was an interesting insight that I thought some of the genesis for that rebrand or refresh on the brand started with research around the website. Take us back to the beginning, the very, very beginning of that story.
Yeah. So our previous website that we had different colors on there, right? So we had green, we had purple, blue, and we just sort of used that in various ways throughout our site. No real rhyme or reason towards it. Just if we needed a purple button, we had a purple button, blue button, blue button. No real like thought to it. Just we just like the colors or something. I'm not really sure. This direction was sort of established before I got there. I mean, we just sort of carried it through. Then it's always been something we've not really totally liked, but we liked it for our site. And we sort of liked how the colors just played with marketing materials because we had some options. And so when I became a creative manager back last year, we had a job opening for a full-time designer. And so we put out the job description and we got some candidates. And one of our candidates she worked at a branch in Roseville. And what we decided to do was we decided to give her some, all of our candidates some homework and, hey, can you design this? Give it back to us. We'll critique it and then we'll, call you back.
So there was a full-time employee that worked at a branch.
Right.
You brought her on, gave her more direction.
Yeah. So she was a candidate and we decided to look at her assignment that we gave her. And when we got her assignment back, the second one, there was a big, like, this is orange and blue, it was just like, these are colors that we don't really represent on our site, but that to us felt like that was her interpretation of what it must be like inside the branch.
Yeah.
And then whenever we took pictures inside the branch, it was always blue and orange, blue and orange, blue and orange, right? Like
consistently through all the branches.
Kind of. It was mainly, blue we call it safe blue, right? Sure. Blue is the main staple color.
Yeah.
And then orange is always been sort of like the accent within the branches.
Okay.
I think part of it was because of an old school design where they wanted to put some like poppies.
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Years ago.
Yeah,
probably,
years ago,
right?
Which are very polarizing amongst people that look at them. Some people really love the poppies. Some people really hate the poppies.
What? It's the California state flower. You can't hate that.
I'm sort of anti-poppy, but
Oh my goodness! Right here, folks. You heard it first.
I know. You're first. Yeah. I do love California poppies. It reminds me of my mom. So she loves poppies. So, so the interpretation that we got from just her design is that members probably go in here and look at everything and they probably think like our brand is blue and orange, just flat out blue and orange. And so it had that kind of light bulb moment of like, why isn't this being represented on our site at all? And why aren't we carrying this flavor of color throughout our site? Because our site has green, purple, whatever. It's just none of that was relating at all, but it is there, and that's the brand, and that is what we have, and that is something that we got to respect, and that is the identity that was established, a while back, and those two colors, part probably mean something to the members, or when they're seeing something. So when we came to the redesign, I've played around with a little bit with like, well, what if we recolored it, X, Y, and Z color, or just try to do something different? And then it just always kind of pulled back was we got to infuse orange into our site.
Mm-hmm.
It was a weird thing because some people, like I said, aren't really fans of orange.
Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to do this? Orange is kind of this is, no.
I mean, I'm not trying to take offense, Steve. It's hard. I'm fighting.
It can't be an obnoxious color, especially on the web, right?
It's kind of an alarming color if it's a different color,
and then blue's very dialed back, it could be very mysterious, and all this other kind of stuff. So we had that moment where we're just like, okay, well, let's just decide that we are trying to we're going to put blue into the website and make this work.
Yeah.
We're going to make it work. And so, we went through a bunch of different ways that we were going to try to figure this out. And then on top of that, right. So there's the color of blue and orange, and those are our brand colors. Coming down the pipeline are these illustrations that are coming for our new brand coming. So we have to sort of think about
in the same kind of glide
pathing. And so, immediately you're just like, okay, well, those illustrations definitely would not fit in the old design, and we got to make them fit in this new design. So my analogy to myself, which I pitched to our SVP and my VP, was like, our website needs to be this, which is essentially we got to pretend that like we are in an art museum, and the design of the website is literally there to help describe things as you would see a placard on in a museum.
Interesting.
And how you would describe something through fonts, a steady, consistent font. Your H1s, your headlines need to be, headline ones, should be consistent, all the way down to H2s, H3s, and everything, it just needs to feel in my heart, like when I was designing, like it just needs to feel like we're stepping into a museum and we're there to observe and just be there and hang out and observe some art, observe some promotions that are going on, our products or whatever, and not have it not having the design overwhelm the art illustration that's there.
Nice.
In theory, that was what I wanted to do. And I think we came to a pretty good conclusion as to what we launched, and so I'm hoping that translates what, I was trying to achieve. And it's had a pretty decent response towards it.
That's good.
It definitely cleaned up the site a lot, and not just from a visual perspective, but also our developers are. We have a great team of our developers that write the code for our site, and it gave them an opportunity to kind of clean up our CSS, kind of clean up our content blocks that we use to help distribute, the different information throughout our site. So, it was a great experience, and I have to admit, like the rebrand and then the website launch and all coming together, and then we launched it in June. It went really well, and I think a lot of it was just, I felt like everybody was marching towards the same goal.
That's a big part, and that gets back to kind of your job as manager. You have to kind of corral a lot of that feedback, thinking, design, critique, right. I guess you could call it. And it's nice that you used the analogy of a museum to kind of get everybody aligned. And I think that's an important thing when we're talking about design or getting people aligned with anything, really. It's like really bring about some sort of there was an overarching theme that you used that kept everybody marching in the same direction. Shows great leadership, also shows great management skills, I think, because that's a part where things could fall off the rails a little bit. It's interesting that when you were talking about it too, you used the U campaign or the next.
What's next.
For what's next. Those are really important to kind of have those as shorthand in everybody's brain. Not that they switch back and forth or anything like that, but when you do say, okay, U is over, now we're going
for sure
next.
Yeah.
Almost having a one-word description for those. That even helps, I think, get people aligned.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Around.
Yeah, it definitely, like, it puts sort of like finality towards something, and it brings like the genesis of something else. And it gets, I think if it gets people excited about, or at least at our work, it gets people excited about, hey, there's this new thing that we're promoting, and there's a new voice and direction that we're doing. And this is it.
When you start this, just one last point on this, when you start to do this development concept theme development with this outside creative director, is it something where you start with just writing words down? I mean, the visuals come in very, very late, I'm assuming, in the process, right? Or is there a part of the process where you integrate visuals along with the words?
He was definitely really good at, sketching out ideas, coming up with, he's a big sketcher, right?
Okay.
Like he loves to sketch out ideas. He loves to play with words and everything. And I think it just kind of evolves from there. You just kind of have a few ideas and thoughts and ways that you want to project things. And, if you were to see some of his earlier rough sketches, you could tell there's an exploration in thumbnails and sketching towards getting to that process. I mean, I'm sure you know this.
That's part of a critical part of developing anything visual for sure. Yeah.
I'm a big storyboarder believer, especially if it's for a project that I feel like needs to have some sort of thought towards camera angles or anything like that. So I understand wanting to have a visual representation of what you want to do.
Yeah.
In just the loosest form, quickest form possible. I would do more video in previous jobs before Safe. We would create some animations. It's helpful to get the storyboarding process down because it helps guide the way that you want to set up your camera or your shot, and making sure that you are thinking about the elements that are inside frame and also movement of camera, right? Because you are taking a 2D element and you have to make the person or the user believe that it's in a world of some kind.
Yeah.
And when you're in that world, it could be a variety of ways you look at that world. You could be looking at it from the bottom, looking up, from top view. You can look at it from behind somebody. I mean, there's all different ways that camera represents, or camera angles represent emotion, status, all those kinds of things.
Perspective.
Yeah. All that really fun ways that cinema is made. It's so I like to, before when I was doing storyboarding, I used to love to just, sketch out what my thoughts are behind the thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
That video that we showed you, the wolves among zombies.
What Steve, along with one of the previous guests, Sheila Johnson, who's been on the podcast before, Steve and Sheila made a movie called
Wolves Among Zombies.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was a AI generated title that was given to us, and as well as a synopsis. And then from there, just to kind of the whole process of it was that we were Sheila comes to me and she goes, myself and another videographer that we've worked with before, and she's like, guys, I don't know if you know who Shaky Graves is. He's a country musician, country folk rock musician out of Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So he's just a weird guy in general, but he's super excellent guitar player and just awesome musician, but still weird. So he has this one contest. So he has this thing called Shaky Graves Film Festival, where he has an AI generated machine. You put in a couple prompts, and then it'll spit out a synopsis and a soundtrack. And from there, you have to pick songs and music from the soundtrack. You have to make a short film out of the synopsis and everything. And then it's like, go. So Sheila saw this and she was just like, guys, we got to do this. And I was just like, it's like December right now and Christmas is around the corner. We have and this thing's due in like a month. She goes, let's do it. So from there, we you have to take a good hard look at yourself and go, can I really do this? And I'm like, this is going to be not something in my schedule right now, but I really want to do this because it looks like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we thought it through, like what we wanted to do, thought of the zombie angle and all this other stuff. I used the storyboarding process to help establish like my camera angles, my push-ins, like how I was going to set up the figures, how I was going to frame the shots and all that. So yeah, ended up creating it. And then we won, which was really cool. Yeah. We flew out to Austin for that. And it was interesting. Have you ever been to Austin?
Never been to Austin. Been to San Antonio though.
Oh,
love
really?
that. Yeah, but
yeah, it was my first time in Texas. I'd never been to Texas before, so really cool.
Cool story. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's important. Thanks for the story on the movie. It's interesting, and yeah, we'll put the link in the show description because it does show, I think, creative people in general, and this is a very creative centric podcast that we're having, which is interesting because marketing leadership has a lot of different forms. People enter marketing leadership from a lot of different angles. Yes, there's the creative angle, and I think that's where you and I both kind of entered into this marketing because it's about communication, it's about clarity and all those things. But then there's also the marketing majors and the people who aren't creative but love marketing and understand the strength of it, and their creativity is expressed in writing, and maybe something that I'm not a big fan of writing myself. Right. I mean, I do it all the time, but
you're a visual guy.
I'm a visual guy. Exactly.
Right.
So it was interesting to hear that story. And I think it's important to have those creative outlets outside your job a little bit. Speak a little bit to that. Like, how does that empower you during your workday?
It's kind of like, I feel sometimes, and I don't know if you have the same thing, but you're always kind of like the tortured artist. Like you always feel like there's some sort of need to say something or write something, and you're constantly thinking of things. I don't even for me, I love movies, so I'm always constantly thinking about, can I make a found footage movie like Blair Witch or something like that?
Yeah.
And so, or can I make an animation, and then I do kind of hone it back sometimes to my job in marketing. Like, hey, could I form something to help out my social channel or whatever? Can I create something, like whatever thought that I have that from a late night jotting down something on a notepad, could I make that something into a marketing direction for my work? But yeah, I feel like I don't know if you're the same way, but just constantly thinking of things and trying to figure out, and it could be as mundane as I'm looking at your bins right now and I'm like, what font is that? Like, what is that font?
It's always Gotham. You can always assume it's Gotham. That's our go-to for everything. So yeah.
Oh man, I'll tell you off mic a funny story with Gotham, but
what was interesting and why I was excited to have you on the podcast, because you, again, are working at this level where you've got teams of people. You're not a marketing team of one. You have people. You have outside sources. In a sense, from the perspective of a marketing team of one, you kind of had unlimited resources. You've got strategists on staff. You've got designers working on you. You've hired creative directors outside. You work with video teams to build all of the assets that you need. So it's great to hear that, because there's an element that may not directly relate, but there's an aspirational piece to it, that if you are in a company as a marketing team of one, think in terms of growing your company. I'm sure your boss wouldn't mind if you helped grow the company or the revenue or whatever that measurement is, right? And so having these kind of ideas and concepts out there, I think, are super powerful to help people visualize, I'm here, but I want to go there, and help them to grow into a bigger organization and things like that. Right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the concepts that are universal that in your mind can help. And you said something early in our interview, pre-interview. You can relate to the idea of a marketing team of one because you personally take on that role to help your team reduce the load on other parts of your team when things start to get stressful. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, it is, obviously that was an embellishment, right? Just saying like you kind of take it all in yourself. And,
right.
I'm a marketing team of one and I do it all myself. But no, the team is, everybody supports each other. Everybody does everything.
Yeah.
But there are times though when you feel, and I feel like this happens to me, like for example, with the web design portion of it, like you're kind of in your own little world. You're figuring out, you're doing your R&D about like other credit unions, other financial institutions, what are they doing? And you're making wireframes, you're making, you're trying to figure out the content and all that other stuff. But so you do kind of feel like you are this sort of weird marketing team of one. Like you are the one that is doing this project, and you are the one that needs to drive it. And you need to be the person that is ultimately responsible for it being launched, or it needs to talk to this person, or you need to get this approval or that approval. You're project managing it yourself. You're creating the workload for yourself. So there's times you do feel like you are a marketing team of one, and I try to say that loosely, because if anyone from our team listens to that, they're gonna be like, dude, you got all kinds of people, man. But like sometimes when I go on a video shoot, for example, we used to go on video shoots, and it would be like myself, a producer, another cameraman, it's just like all this other stuff. But you end up figuring out like as we've done so many of them, and we've had to go to a lot of different places to shoot for different videos throughout our community for people that, we've either given grants to, et cetera, et cetera. You go out there and you realize like, I should try to reduce my footprint a little bit, like I don't want to come in there with just bags of blazing tripods, lights, because it could look like this, right? Yeah. Like you could really fill a room with equipment if you don't watch out. You know what I mean? Like extension cords.
Talk about addictions.
Yeah. Oh
photography equipment, right?
Yes. I am a master of just collecting things that like, maybe I'll use that, that kind of thing. So I've tried to reduce it down for myself, as well as our digital designer that we hired on. Yeah. If we do go out, like how do we optimize our situation so that you are, marketing team of one, you are going out there and you are being efficient with the things that you have. So, scrappy, right? Yeah. So it's like, I don't need to go out there with my Pocket 6K Blackmagic, camera and big old, lights and C-stands and all this other stuff, right? I could literally get by with a iPhone, a monopod, and maybe a light that has a V mount on it, so that I could transport it around, and that's enough, and that's enough to light a shot. That's enough to get the message in, and also I feel sometimes that we go out to different communities and we capture people that have had an impact, or something's impacted them. Yeah. Whether they're part of a nonprofit and they go and they, for whatever reason, they need help from this nonprofit. Yeah. And so, SAFE gives this nonprofit a grant, and then the grant helps out individual. And then a lot of times we'll get testimonials from the individual, just trying to make a story out of it.
Tell the story.
The story of like grant to nonprofit to individual. And when we get to that story, when we get to that person, they aren't people that want to be in front of the camera all the time, and so you're trying to minimize like how this is impacting them. And
the intimidation of all the stuff is a lot.
I mean, right? I hate being in front of camera, dude. I don't know how I'm doing.
You're doing great though, Steve. You're doing amazing.
I hate being in front of camera, and I just am very jealous of people that just get up there and they're like, oh, blah 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 blah. Like they could just do it like it's absolutely just second nature to them. But when we do go out, and I do feel like sometimes when you are that marketing person of one, that you do really have to try to be mindful, and you have to have empathy towards subject and people and place and institution that you're at.
It's wild to see like the behind the scenes shots of some of that too, because you're like, wow, it's just a guy on a chair, but no, it's not. So Steve, you talked a lot about marketing teams of one internally and how they help move things on move projects along efficiently and cleanly, and not scaring your subject matter or your subject if you're filming something like that. I mean, a lot of that applies probably to how you project that onto all of the different platforms that you use. Talk a little bit about that efficiency mindset when it comes to choosing platform, because the olden days were like, we're going to go billboard, we're going to go TV, we're going to go everything that's out there. Is there some sort of calculus that takes place internally within SAFE that says, okay, this is great, let's just do it here. this is great here. Let's just do it there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of decision making that goes to, the way that we put our different assets across our channels.
Okay.
And what type of it is. A big thing for us is, of course, email campaigns that we drop into Salesforce and create journeys out of them. And so our marketing ops team, I think that was our other team that I forgot to mention, but our marketing ops team is really good and efficient about trying to establish and also trying to be respectful of how people receive emails or receive an email campaign, and like we don't do an all member send.
Yeah.
We really do try to be deliberate about who we're targeting at a certain point.
Nice.
So in that respect, the email platform is something that we really do try to optimize as much as possible to make it more efficient, and not get our members angry at us.
Not to over communicate.
Yeah, not to over communicate. But then on the other side of it, which I kind of talked about before, was like there's the social side, which can be a little bit more zanier and can be a little bit more lighthearted. And so we try to build content towards that audience as well, in trying to know like your target audience is Instagram, so you got to figure out something in the first 6 seconds.
Yep.
And we go longer than that a lot of times, but really we do try to see if we can make our content match the analytics that we need to kind of adhere to.
Optimize for that platform again.
For sure.
Get to that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been great. This maybe is a good place to stop the podcast, but let's do a little recap before we're done here. Your journey is really interesting. You're very creative design. That's why we can geek out on design like all day long. It sounds like we come from a very similar place.
I know. I feel like we could talk about design forever. Right?
Yeah. It is a problem.
That's
okay. We're going to deal with it. We're going to get through this. But going back on your journey, it's been interesting to see from your perspective a lot of the creative thought, intention, and process around working with a credit union so big, with having a big team. There's a lot of decisions that you made that were, I love the openness in which you have approached not only how you bring on creative direction, outsourcing it. That's pretty different. I like that kind of concept because you really do have that outside perspective. It helps with everything. You even opened up by bringing in a young designer. And did you hire the young designer?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
on
she's
staff?
on the team right now.
Okay, great. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So that she gave you some interesting insights into how
she's really good. She definitely keeps me in check a lot with decisions and keeping the design process as honest as it can be. So she's excellent.
You talked a little bit about staying creative and staying inspired by doing outside projects. I love the idea. The film is amazing and award-winning, of course.
Yeah, you should do one with us next time.
Call me up. Yeah, I'll talk to my agent. And I wanted to make two observations. One, let's just look at the socks.
Oh, right.
Please. Those are Rolling Stone socks.
These are Stone socks. Yeah. You're
up in the sock game, which I appreciate. It's a big part of the pod.
It is.
So yeah.
I didn't know that, and I love this whole shoes and socks and just the laces that don't really do anything, but they look awesome.
Unfunctional, yes.
Unfunctional laces.
Yeah.
Is that part of their branding titles? Unfunctional lace shoe.
They have like 400 or 500 different models. So yeah, I don't know. But there's I got a gift for you, man. Okay. And I don't know. I don't remember if you remember me talking about it. It's not a light, but here it's really weird wrapping. But I love the wrapping. By the way, this is something that I always love to save the wrapping and get right into and save for something else. If you need this back, I don't need to.
I do need the bag back.
Okay. Oh my goodness! Look at this! Look at this!
Do you remember?
Yes, now I remember.
Yeah, so those are eggs from our farm that we have.
I love it, and a little lavender on there.
I believe those are probably literally a couple days old. So I don't know if you know about eggs. Those eggs can stay out for a little while.
Okay.
They don't need to be refrigerated unless you wash them. If you wash them, then you got to put them in the refrigerator. So just let you.
Interesting. We're learning a lot here on the podcast.
I hope that's all correct information. I am like not a farmer at all. I just kind of go by.
I need to look at these things because I know you've got a farm.
And
look at that. That is gorgeous. Look at the different colors on that. That's really cool. Thank you.
That is all from my so this is totally my wife doing like the nice little twine and lavender. I was just like, I'm gonna bring him some eggs, and I was ready to bring over like just a bag,
just a box.
That's like the dude way of doing it. Here, man, here's some eggs, and like but it ended up no. She was just like, no, stop. Got cartons and twine and lavender. So
she sounds like an overachiever, and I appreciate that.
She's in finance, so yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Dude,
I really
really
enjoyed
special.
this. This was super fun, dude.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on the pod.
Yeah,
appreciate it, and thanks everybody else.
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information and other episodes, subscribe to the Marketing Team of One podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify podcast networks. You can also chat with us on the r/Marketing Team of One subreddit or visit marketingteamofone.com to learn more.